Podcast Network.
Hello, Herstory heroes, and welcome to another episode of Whining About Herstory, the women's history podcast where two longtime BFFs take whining to a whole new level and talk about women from history you probably have never heard of. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yay.
This is the first time we've been able to record in quite some time where, one, we're not on a strict timeline because no one else is using the studio in Kelley's house.
Yep.
And two, it's not a fucking weeknight.
Woohoo!
Saturday,
All the
living
wine.
for the weekend. So I'm super excited, and we don't have anything else going on today, and we are just riding high on the wine wave. So
Yes.
I'm
It's the
really
first time we've done
excited.
this in a while. It's fun.
So Kelley picked the wine today, but before she gets started, there was something I wanted to talk about. So on our last episode, Kelley covered Peggy Lee, the incredible singer who is most notably known for Lady and the Tramp.
Mhm.
That's not true.
No, not at all, but we can go with it.
You know what? You listened to that, and that's when it clicked with you. Oh, I know who she is. Anyway, there was a song
Yeah,
that
we talked
popped.
about Fever.
Yeah, so one of her most notable songs was Fever, and there was a song that popped into both me and Kelley's heads, but we're like, I don't think that's it. Well, I was watching TV, and one of the characters started singing Fever, and I'm like, that's the song I was thinking of. I looked it up. It was the Peggy Lee song.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Google Peggy Lee Fever, because I know you have heard it, because it's like, you give me fever.
Yeah.
Baby, when you hold me tight. And I'm not going to sing anymore because I don't want to get sued.
It's a good song.
Oh, it's so good. And I've been like singing it to myself all
Right.
week.
I know. Because once you said that, I went and looked it up too, and I was like, oh shit!
But yeah, I heard it and I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, really excited. And also today, really big deal. The Edinburgh 7, who we covered in episode 2, will all be awarded their posthumous degrees from Edinburgh University.
Yep.
And if you remember from episode 2, if you're a loyal listener, and I know you are, they were the first women who were allowed to attend a British university. They were never awarded their degrees, though. And
It was medical, right?
yeah,
Medical
they
university?
all went for medical school. And they were harassed, attacked, sexually harassed, and
Got,
generally
shut out of their classes.
they were generally like not even given teachers. Like they had to teach themselves college.
A whole bunch of bullshit.
And here's the thing. All of those women went on and did some really incredible things, but it was such bullshit that they were allowed into university, and the university basically said, well, they shouldn't have been allowed anyway, and we're not going to give them their degrees because we're a bunch of pricks.
Basically.
150 years later, they will all be awarded their degrees. And I
Yeah.
mean,
It's beautiful.
a little too late, but it's
Still
great.
beautiful.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm choosing to be very happy about
So
this.
that's our shout out for today.
Yeah, that's our say their name, and it's say their names, and unfortunately I don't have them all written in front of me. I remember Sophia Jablake and Judith Peachy, who was like, oh, well, I'd like to learn medicine if
Right,
I,
like,
had the right
guess.
education. And then she was like the smartest person in the whole fucking world. But anyway, that's awesome. And I'm so happy. And seriously, look it up in the news because it's really incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful that they're doing that.
I mean, they fucking better.
Right.
As we're
at some point. I'm
as we
glad they,
want to
you
say
know.
on this show, they fucking better have.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kelley, who picked our fabulous wine.
All right. So I don't remember if it was first episode or second episode.
I think it was second because you picked the wine for our first episode and I picked the one for our second, which was the Edinburgh 7. So this is so appropriate.
we're drinking another sweet bitch wine.
Because we have to. I mean, come on.
we are. Come on. This one is a smooth and fruity Pinot Grigio. Their description of it is a combination of fragrant almond and melon aromas with a fresh acidity. The flavors are interwoven with a ripe pear and juicy lemon.
I have to say, when we drink white wine, it's pretty dry, unless it's like a Moscato or something.
Yeah, then it's just fruity. But this one has a good balance.
I felt like I was biting into a grape because it's really juicy.
Yeah.
Like, and really, like, wet.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Which sounds super dumb because I get it. It's wine. But if you can say wine is dry, I can say it's wet.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I can definitely, I don't know about the almond, but I can definitely taste like the melon.
I get like kind of a whiff of almond because
I
almonds
guess
are
it's
like
more in the smell than
because almonds are
taste.
like a little bitter but more muted.
Yeah.
And I get that a little only because the wine is telling me I should get it.
Yeah.
Like
I was gonna say, like 5 minutes ago you wouldn't have said that.
no, absolutely not.
Well, cheers.
Cheers to the Edinburgh 7 finally getting their
Edinburgh
degrees.
7.
It only took 150 years. Cheers, clink. No, I've been like downing this stuff. It's really good.
It is. It's not as smooth as some we've had, but it's a little tart, but it's not, overpoweringly tarty.
Yeah, like that Prayers of Saints we drank last week. First of all, I really like that wine. Also, did you know it glows in the dark?
No.
I looked up the hashtag on Instagram, Prayers of Saints, and people were taking pictures of it glowing in the dark, and it was like,
I'm gonna have to do this now.
we still have the bottle.
Yep,
we
it's
need to check it
upstairs.
out and take a picture. But that was really like, we called it like the Sour Patch Kids of wine.
Yeah.
Because it was like sweet and then had that bitter finish.
Yep.
Liked it, but this is just, I want to be tubing on the river and just chugging this.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Bottle in hand.
I mean, maybe we'll bring a bottle because we're still planning our tubing trip.
Woot woot tubing.
Woo! I'm so excited.
Yes. It's the one like summer thing Minnesota's really good at.
It is. Like, so 90% of the time.
Even though we go to Wisconsin to do it.
We're such bad Minnesotans. No, we did that on purpose though. Okay.
Yeah.
So Kelley and I it's gotta be like
the first time we went.
in Minnesota.
Yes, but the reason we went to the one in Wisconsin was because all the other rivers were too high and they all closed down. And they have a dam on the one we go on in Wisconsin, so it never gets too high. So they were the only people open the day we wanted to go tubing.
This is such a great nevertheless she persisted story. So Kelley and I, we started going tubing every summer like 5 years ago because this was before I even met Jared, and we're going on 4 years.
Yeah.
So we went to a river in Minnesota. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, and it was just the two of us.
Some dude offered us pot and we politely declined.
a minute onto the river, he was like, "Rules of the river, you guys want some?" And we're like, "No."
He was just being polite. Like
Yeah,
he
he
was just, "Hey, would you like some?" No, cool.
Right.
Like
There was no harassment.
totally not Reagan era just say no bullshit. But that was a ton of fun. And then the next year we had it planned with a third friend,
Yep.
right? And it had been raining a ton and we got the first beautiful day in ages. But unfortunately, all of the rivers in Minnesota were too high. All the tubing places were closed. And instead of just accepting that, Kelley and I were like,
Where
"Fuck
else can
this.
we go?"
We're going tubing. This is happening." So we went to a place in Wisconsin.
Yep. Our other friend dropped out, so we went just us. No, that was Liz. She didn't drop out.
That was the third year we went.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, because Cameo dropped out.
Yeah. We love you, Cameo, if you're listening. But it was cool because you can go down the river as many times as you want. A bus picks you up at the end. I think this was Apple River
Yeah, it's
tubing.
Apple River tubing or something.
Yeah.
They have like 3 or 4 that go on the same river. So
Yeah.
really any of the ones that are on the Apple River. are
Hashtag
fine.
sponsor us, Apple River Tubing. And we've been going there ever since because it's nice to go down multiple times. And
Right,
you know,
usually we end up going twice because we get there
early.
fairly early in the morning. Not like ridiculously early,
No.
but fairly early. I think we usually leave here about 8 and it's like an hour and a half drive.
Yeah, and it's a ton of
And
fun.
It's just nice.
And we've been going with like different friends every year. It's just kind of whoever can make it. But Kelley and I have been going tubing every summer for like 5 years.
And that's like our one thing. We're like, we're going to do this every summer.
Yes.
No matter what.
Of all of the things we say we're going to do every summer, this is the one thing we actually get done.
Yeah. I'm proud of us.
When are we going back to River Falls where we went to college?
Well,
Probably
it's been
never.
like 2 years.
No, honey.
It's probably been more than that.
My hair was like above my shoulders the last time we went, and now it's down
I
to
think
my
it was
tits.
that time we went tubing with Liz.
No, we went independently, and then we went swimming in the St. Croix.
See, she has such a better memory than I do.
That's because Facebook reminds me. Anyway, this is a women's history podcast. Enough about us tubing. Kelly,
It's our history.
you're going to go first.
All right. Today I'm covering Juana de Esbaje y Ramirez de Santillana.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with Juana from now on.
Here's the thing. Long names, especially if we're not used to saying them in a different language, are difficult, but worth saying.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like, no, honey, you will say my whole name. You will get winded saying it, but that's because it's fucking worth it.
Right. It was funny, though, because I was rereading my notes just now, and I was like, have I told this story before? No, it's just for me reading my notes that many times. All right. So Juana was born on November 12th, 1965. She was the illegitimate daughter of a Spanish father and a Creole mother. Her maternal grandfather owned property in America. I don't know where that is.
I was just going to ask you.
I think it's... I didn't even write down what nationality she is, so I don't want to be... I think she's Mexican, so I think that's somewhere in Mexico, South America.
But she's of mixed race.
Yes.
Okay.
So her grandfather owned property, and that is where she spent her early years living with her mother on his estate called Panoea.
I'm just going to say, we have pre-gamed a little harder than we've been able to the past few episodes. So both Kelly and I are a sheet and a half to the wind, I'd say.
A sheet and a half.
Yeah, just, we're not fully there, but
we're not 2 sheets. We're only a sheet and a half.
We're where
By the
we
end of
need
the
to be.
episode, maybe we'll be 2.
We can still read words on our computers.
So Juana was a voracious reader in her early childhood, hiding in the hacienda chapel to read her grandfather's books from the adjoining library. She composed her first poem when she was 8 years old, and by adolescence she had comprehensively studied Greek logic and was teaching Latin to young children at age 13.
I have a quick question for you. Does she become a nun eventually?
Yes.
Did you find her on Rejected Princesses?
I mean, yes.
Is she like the Phoenix?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I almost covered her. I was so close. I was going to cover her for Pride Month because she was on Rejected Princesses under the LGBTQ plus category, but there was nothing in the... And here's the thing,
all of her history,
they never talked about it.
They just said she didn't want to marry. That was like the extent of what they talked about.
And it could have been that she was asexual, but it wasn't like a part of her story. And specifically for Pride Month, I want to cover people where that was an important part of their identity and their story. But I don't know her whole story, but I'm just like...
You're like, this resonates.
I'm feeling your brainwaves seep into me. So I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm like imagining the illustrations now because they're very pretty. Seriously, check out rejectedprincesses.com. Sponsor us. #sponsor us.
She also learned Nahuatl, which is an Aztec language spoken in central Mexico, and also wrote short poems in that language. After her grandfather's death, which was also at age 8,
bummer.
She was sent to live in Mexico City with her maternal aunt. It doesn't say what happened to her mother.
I was going to say, like, I feel like the further back you go, kids just get passed around from, like, extended family member to extended family member. I'm like, where are the parents?
She longed to disguise herself as male so that she could go to university, but her family did not give her permission to do so.
Oh, so she's a rebel.
Yeah.
She's straight up Spanish Belle.
Right. She continued to study privately, though, and she was a harsh teacher to herself. She cut her hair thinking it should not be adorned with hair and naked of learning at the age of 16.
This hair is just taking up space. I need my head to be light so more knowledge can be absorbed through osmosis.
When she was 16, she was presented to the court of the Viceroy Marquis de Montserrat, where she was admitted to the service of the Viceroy's wife, where she entertained nobles with her poetry and works of theater. When she was 17, the Viceroy assembled 40 members of the University of Mexico to test her intelligence. They questioned her on topics such as mathematics, philosophy, literature, and history, and were astounded by her genius. A quote from the Viceroy after the events was, "In the manner that a royal galleon might fend off the attacks of a few canoes."
Explain that to me.
So
I feel like I missed
basically,
something.
She would be the galleon, which, is big, has cannons. And
Yeah.
then the people asking her questions were the canoes, and she just destroyed them. Any question they had, she answered, and she did really well.
So she was a boss.
Yeah.
Hashtag lady boss.
At 17.
Oh my God. At 17, what was I doing? I was in and out of the hospital for mental and physical issues and super hating myself.
High school.
Yeah, high school sucks.
10-year reunion.
Oh my God, so many people in my high school yearbook, they put their senior quotes as like, see you in 10. And I was like, please no, I don't want to see any of you people again.
I don't know. I think I'm going to go to mine.
I feel like, okay, I'm still friends with a bunch of people from high school, like the cool people. And I feel like if we all got together and went to the reunion, that would be fun. I would never just go by myself.
And that's kind of my worry.
I will go with you. I'll be your date.
Well, I think Justin wants to come.
Well, fuck
I'll just
him.
bring both of you.
Yeah. No,
This is my girlfriend and this is my husband.
I'm woke as fuck. What have you done with your life?
That would be funny.
This is my husband. This is my maid of honor. It's cool.
We all understand. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently Juana was very, very beautiful, and she attracted a great deal of attention for her beauty. She received a lot of marriage proposals, and however, she turned them all down. She had no desire to marry and wished only to continue her studies.
I imagine, because she was so fucking smart, anytime someone proposed, she asked them like an intellectual question, and none of them could answer it. And that was like her screening process.
So the only choice she thought she had, and her logical path, which I kind of agree, at least in this time, was to become a nun. So she joined the convent.
Because otherwise she would have to get married and then stop her intellectual pursuits to be a wife and mother.
Yep.
Because there's no having it all.
But
There's
I'm sure her
either or.
husband would still expect her to entertain with this wit that she has.
Yeah. He brings her out so she can like say what 2 + 2 is, and they're like, "What, a woman doing math?
And she's
Witchcraft.
so beautiful. Witchcraft.
Oh my God, you can't be that beautiful and that intelligent. This is insane."
Right.
Ah.
So Juana entered the convent of the Discalced Carmelites of St. Joseph, where she remained for a few months. And then in 1969, at the age of 21, she entered the convent of the Order of St. Jerome, where she would remain until her death. The notes that I found said that the first convent she entered was just a little too strict. Like, they wouldn't give her the time to do her studies or anything like that.
They were like, you were a tool for the convent.
Exactly.
You don't get to be your own person.
It was too much, so she went and she entered a different convent of a different order that was
a little more chill.
Yep. She lived very comfortably. Her cell was actually an apartment maintained by servants and slaves, and she had a huge personal library containing various scientific, mathematical, and musical instruments. It also contained works of art and some 4,000 books.
Did you say this was in 1969 or was it 1869? Please tell me there were not slaves in 1969.
1669.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
I was like, I'm pretty sure it's farther back than that.
I started making this face when you said 1969.
I know you did.
I was like,
I was
that's when we
ignoring
went to the goddamn moon. Also, when the Stonewall Uprising happened.
Right? There's all this shit.
1969 was a big year.
So, from now on, I'm going to refer to her as Sor Juana, which just means sister.
Okay.
She's a sister from this point on.
If she became a doctor, we call her Dr. Juana. So,
Dr. Juana.
Dr. Sor Juana. Dr. Sister Juana.
Yeah, exactly. Here in her cell, she produced works of poetry, drama, and prose, which were all published extensively. Sor Juana's enduring importance and literary success are partly attributable to her mastery of the full range of poetic forms and themes of the Spanish Golden Age, and her writings display intentiveness, wit, and a wide range of knowledge. She employed all of the poetic models of her day, including sonnets and romances, and she drew on a wide range of secular and non-secular sources. Unlimited by genre, she also wrote dramas, comedies, and scholarly works, especially unusual for a nun.
I was going to say, because it doesn't sound like she joined the convent for religious reasons.
Not really, no.
Because there was nowhere else where she could pursue her intellectual interests without being hounded by dudes who wanted to fuck her.
Right. And that's probably why she chose a convent that was a little more
chill.
Lax.
Yeah.
You know, because if she's writing non-secular work, a very strict convent would probably be like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to do that at all.
Oh, yeah. No, that was like, oh, fuck. My drunk brain is forgetting her name. The sexologist saint. Saint something of Bergen.
It was an H.
Hildegard.
Hildegard.
Oh my god.
There we go. Together, our drunk brains can form sentences.
And you know why? Because empower women, people. But she was like the first one to write like a non-secular piece of music.
It's huge.
And it was like, whoa, what? No, but you're a nun and that's all you can be.
Yeah.
And I get it.
And luckily by this time, it doesn't, at least in this particular order, it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah. Well, and I get it because being a nun or a priest is like, you are.
I mean, that's your job. That's
all
your life.
In.
Yeah.
Like, you're married to God.
Well, that's why even the fact that her cell, like, that she had slaves and servants and then all this stuff, because usually a lot of times for nuns, it's you renounce your worldly pleasures.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you might have a few personal items and stuff, but you don't get 4,000 books and paintings and all of this stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's super cool, though. I love that she has the opportunity to kind of pursue her intellectual interests.
Yeah, I love it.
Go Sor Juana.
So Sor Juana's most important plays include Brave and Clever Women. And her most famous poem, Hombres Necios, which means foolish men, accuses men of behaving illogically by criticizing women. Her most significant poem, Primo Sueño, which is First Dream, which was published in 1692, is at once personal and universal, recounting the soul's quest for knowledge.
I fucking love her. So I grew up being taught by nuns, and actually all of the nuns I had as teachers were super cool, and they were like lots of fun. They weren't those stuffy, I'm gonna beat you with a ruler nuns.
Yeah.
Actually, the only teacher I had that ever inflicted physical punishment on the students was not a nun, like not involved with the order at all, not a nun, not a priest, not anything. But I love that she's free to make that social commentary. And here's the thing, like, yeah, saying that women are weaker and inherently shittier than men, that is illogical. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. She was woke.
She was woke as fuck for 1600s being a nun. Jeez.
Right? I know. So besides the poems and plays she wrote, she also studied music, philosophy, and natural science. So she was like all over the place. And I mean, studying natural science, that probably was a big, huge, like, you work for the church. Why are you studying that type thing?
She wrote the last word on evolution.
Right.
And signed it, Sister Juana. No, seriously, a nun.
Though she was very accomplished, Sor Juana was the subject of criticism by her political and religious superiors. When her friends, the viceroy and his wife, who apparently it did say was the subject of a series of her love poems, but I couldn't, like, the one thing I saw that said that, it was like literally like a little cliff note. Like, there was no, like, more in-depthness to it, so that's why I'm including it here as a cliff note. Like,
well, it's hard when we're doing this research because you see something that's only mentioned in one place and you're like, well, why isn't it mentioned anywhere else?
Yeah.
It's not explained.
And that's why a lot
place.
of times I'll mention it in my stories, but I'll be like, I only found it in one place.
I feel like you do a good job with that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I try. I appreciate you too.
Aw, love you.
So when the viceroy and his wife left Mexico in 1688, Sor Juana lost much of her protection that she had from them, because obviously being a viceroy, you know, that's fairly high up, you know.
He's in a political place of power where he can shield her with his influence.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah. So in 1690, a letter of hers which criticized a well-known Jesuit sermon was published without her permission by a person using the pseudonym Sor Filotea de la Cruz. Included with her letter was a letter by Sor Felito, who was actually the Bishop of Pueblo, Manuel Fernandez de Santa Cruz, who is known to like have had like almost a rivalry with the bishop from her order. So like he did it on purpose. He did it intentionally to get her in trouble.
He's like being a dick.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's publishing.
Because he published she criticized a popular person's sermon.
Okay.
And he published it without her permission or knowledge.
Oh, super cool, because let's just ignore women's consent on what they can put out in the world. Fuck you, dude.
So his letter about her criticizing a sermon criticized her for her comments and for a lack of serious religious content in her poems.
I mean, here's the thing. She's not in this because she's particularly religious. Like, maybe she is, but this was the only place she could pursue her intellectual interests.
Right. Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, this is what blows me about organized religion sometimes. If you're religious, if you have faith, there's nothing wrong with that. But when we are unable to look inward and be like, hey, maybe this one thing we're doing or this one thing we're preaching isn't actually healthy.
Right?
Like there's no ability to criticize or look inward. It's like, nope, this is the way it is. It has to be good.
This is how it has to be.
Yeah. And we don't grow that way. Would
No.
you tell your child that every single thing they do is wonderful? Not when they're shoving a kid to the ground. You correct that kind of behavior.
Right. And you have to be willing to change. Change
Yes.
is how we grow as a civilization and as people.
Yeah.
If we don't change, we're literally just doing the same thing over and over again.
Welcome to our religious criticism podcast. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley. Let's get into it.
Oh my God. But no,
okay.
that's something that's always bothered me. It's like, no, it's either this way or no way. Like there's
Right.
no looking inward
And
or
recently
growth.
there's a lot of religions that are embracing change, and it's great. Like, and we're not criticizing one religion or another. We're just saying, as a whole, it's even not just religions, government, like a lot of things. There's this is how it is, and we can't change it, even though we can.
Yeah, this is the way it's always been. Well, the way it's always been hasn't worked for a lot of fucking people, so
Right.
maybe we should look at it. Did you hear about those, I think they were Methodists, so there were a bunch of young people who were getting confirmed into the Methodist church, but instead of going through with it, they all gave speeches on how they were uncomfortable with the way the Methodist church had like doubled down on not being open to LGBTQ plus people.
So they were like, we were going to join the church, but
we don't want to send the message that this kind of behavior is okay. And we 100% don't agree with the exclusion of LGBTQ plus people. And we think it's bullshit. So we're going to use this opportunity to tell you it's bullshit.
yeah, that's amazing.
That's incredible. Like, I wish I was that brave, because when I got confirmed, I did it because my mom wanted me to. And I remember talking to a priest and being
Same.
like, so this whole like being against gay marriage thing, that's kind of bullshit, right? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But I still went through
I mean,
with
and
it.
at least that's changing now, at least in Catholicism.
Because people are fighting for it.
Exactly.
Amen.
Okay, back to my story.
I'm so sorry. We went off a whole tangent.
So he criticized the poems and her serious lack of religious content. Okay.
Yes.
Her reply is now the famous Resputa a Sor Felito, which I didn't find a translation for. I probably could have Googled it. And it has been hailed as the first feminist manifesto, defending, among other things, a women's right to education. Her ferventness in it was the subject of further criticism, and the Archbishop and others demanded that she give up any non-religious books or studies.
Oh,
She
fuck.
continued to publish non-religious works, among them several villancicos, which is a poetic form typically sung as a religious devotional for feasts of the Catholic calendar,
Okay.
about St. Catherine of Alexandria, written in a more feminist than religious tone. All right, the next section I called Two Paths, ?
Oh, no. That
Well,
sounds
because I read
ominous.
two different ways how people say what happened / how they feel it happened.
Okay.
Like, because some people, there's the side that say, that she was forced to give up all her stuff and like her books were burned and all this stuff. And then some other places say that she willingly sold them and then gave the alms to the poor. So you'll see.
Okay. I'll save my judgments until after you tell me the story.
Right. Controversies surrounding Sor Juana's writing and pressure from those around her, including her confessor, Nunes de Miranda, which I think confessor at that time is like the priest of the order.
I was going to say, we covered that in Hildegard of Bingen. The confessor was someone who took
confessions.
Yeah, but he was like a higher up religious figure.
So this is the one that says resulted in her forced abjuration. Like, so she had to be done. During this time, Sor Juana was required to sell her books as well as all musical and scientific instruments. Apparently, she then responded by devoting herself to a rigorous penance and giving up all studies and writing. That just seems really hard for me to believe.
Well, because she didn't seem religious until she went into the order, and we know why she went in. So the idea that she was like, oh, no, you're right, I pissed off God, I need to, like, repent. No, she was pursuing her intellectual interests the whole time. So that seems a little fishy.
Rejected Princesses says that she signed a document.
Rum. God, that sounds good right now.
Like repenting and like repealing all her works, and that she signed it in blood. I couldn't find any of his references because they were all like books, and I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a book. Like, sorry guys.
Yeah,
I love our podcast, but I'm like, I don't have time to do that.
Send us the book.
Yeah, there you go.
Email it to us at wantingaboutherstory@gmail.com.
So yeah, basically the whole thing was, one way or another, she ended up void of all her possessions and not able to write anymore or learn.
So I have what I feel like I think happened in my head. I just feel like it's a more convenient narrative for the church to say, oh, she saw the error of her ways and she thinks we're totally right and she did all this of her free will. That sounds pretty fishy versus she was forced to do all this because it fit into what we wanted.
Yeah, there was a specific one I really, really liked. Let's see if I can find the notes from that, because I kind of like split my notes at this point.
Well, if we're getting ahead of what you have written down, don't like scroll around for me.
No, I wanted to read it in this section, and it was... So, this is one that I found that it's like one person's take on like how they've read Sor Juana's story, and I think it's kind of long, but I'll kind of sum it up as I go. So this person says, Sor Juana's decision to give up her worldly possessions and dedicate herself to charity sealed her saintly reputation. It was a turning point in her life and was presented by so many as persecution and was integral to the image that Sor Juana herself wished to portray. Within her lifetime, 2 of the 3 volumes of her complete works were published, and she edited a lot of them herself. The final installment was published around 5 years after her death and was reprinted several times. And each volume appears to present a carefully constructed image of Sor Juana, tracing her career from court favorite to nun to saintly exemplar, with her works reflecting this progression. Within the last volume is a biography that she wrote, and it draws upon the well-established narrative of a saint who gained fame and fortune and decided to give it all up for Christ. Her profession of faith, which is in her biography, which has been used as evidence of her persecution, was rather tame in comparison with those of other nuns. However, this was key in demonstrating her pious transformation and presenting herself as worthy of sainthood. However, the fascinating thing is that to a certain extent, this narrative seems to be been created by Sor Juana herself. Her agency in deciding how her work and image were presented should not be underestimated. Few writers in the early modern period, both men and women, had a privilege to be able to portray themselves the way they wanted, and many did not live to see their writings in print. You know, a lot of times you hear, oh, all of his works were published after he died. Like, no, she actually got published during her lifetime.
Right. And she was able to take control of the narrative.
Exactly.
That's fucking awesome.
The fact that she influenced the creation of her posthumous biography demonstrates that far from being broken down and put in her place, she was continuing to shape her own image from beyond the grave.
I love that. It's spooky.
So this is a direct quote from the thing I read. It says, "Yet despite this, people, including scholars, have preferred to regurgitate the same old cliched narrative of female victimhood about someone who is actually incredibly successful. It seems that we must believe that a woman suffered in order for her to be awarded iconic status. But this means we are killing heroines rather than celebrating their achievements. Why is the only acceptable strong female character one who has been recast as a victim?"
That is fucking incredible.
I know, I read that and I'm like, ooh.
Like, can we unpack that for a second? Because so many of the women we cover, they're shit on by the patriarchy. They're shit on by heteronormative standards.
Yep.
And that's part of their story. That's such an integral part of their story, is that they have suffered just for being women.
Right.
But she fucking took control.
Yep. But then
And-
afterward, people are like, no, look, she gave it all up. And it's like,
Oh,
no.
poor lady. No. Like,
She was awesome in her own right. She doesn't need to be a victim.
yeah. God,
I know I read that and I'm like, this is going in my notes.
that is so cool. Like, and like I said, a lot of the women we cover, part of their story is that they've been victimized.
But I love that's why we're covering them. Like, I feel like we're kind of taking that back. We're making them less victimized and more like, hey, this person was a hero. Yeah, she faced all this shit, but this is what she got done.
Right. God, that's... I have no words. That's just
beautiful.
fucking amazing. And that's something that I feel like I'm going to stick with whenever I hear about women in history.
Yeah. I know, I read that and I was like, ooh, gives me chills.
Changing the herstory game, bitches.
This author believed that perhaps her downfall was due to the fact that she was a Mexican rebelling against the Spanish authorities, so it could have been a political move.
I feel like it's a little bit of column A, column B, and column
Probably.
C.
It's
like,
probably a little bit of everything.
There's a lot of factors involved, and that's why we can't just say, oh, it's because she's a woman.
Exactly.
Well, there's a lot of shit going on here.
In 1695, a plague hit the convent, and on April 17th, after tending to her fellow sisters, Sor Juana died from the disease at the age of 44. I thought it said 5, so I had to double check. However, even though she gave up all the writing she had at the convent, the vicereine, so the viceroy's wife,
Okay.
had retained much of her works. However, a lot of the writing that she sold off or got taken from her was scattered around Mexico by the Mexican Revolution.
Doing the jerk-off hand motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it by this
see.
point has been recovered, but that's still really, really sad.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that happens in every historical story. You know, shit gets lost. It gets buried.
At least this time it didn't get, like, burned and destroyed and, you know, like a lot of the other women we cover.
Yeah. I mean, enough of it was preserved where we
Which
can
is
understand her
amazing.
impact.
Yeah. So legacy. There's a vast amount of scholarly literature on Sor Juana in Spanish, English, French, German, and many other languages. There's a ton of TV shows, telenovelas, so I'm not going to cover all that. There's a shit ton of stuff.
Look it up.
Look it up.
Trust in Mother Google.
The works that are still around, most of them, if not all of them, have been translated to, you know, English, French, German, like the key major languages. Apparently, in 1997, Penguin Classics paperback published Poems, Protest, and a Dream of hers in English, and that was like a major, like one of the first major of her works published in English.
Wait, was it called Poem, Protests, and a Dream? Or
Yeah.
was it they published a poem, they published a protest, and they published
Poems,
one of her
Protest,
dreams?
and a Dream. So like the Dream was like one of her major works, so I'm guessing it was a compilation of her poems, you know, maybe that feminist manifesto, and then the Dream. Yeah. And it
Okay.
says, which includes her response to authorities censuring her.
Love it.
I just love that Penguin Classics did it.
Go Penguins. Feminist Animal
Right.
of the Year.
A lot of people argue the most notable book written about her was written by Nobel Prize laureate Octavio Paz in Spanish and then translated into English. It was called Sor Juana, or The Traps of Faith.
Ooh, that's very compelling.
A very valuable feminist analyst of Sor Juana's life and work is found in The Answer / La Respuesta by Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, by Electa Arenal, a Sor Juana scholar who is recognized among feminists who changed America, and Amanda Powell, a poet and translator.
Empower women, empower women.
One more I'd like to touch on is Dr. Teresa Uger wrote her master's and doctoral thesis on Sor Juana. She wrote the book called Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, Feminist Reconstruction Biography and Text. She discusses Sor Juana's life through a feminist lens and analyzes the criticism, and then El Sueño, and then, yeah, so that one's apparently supposed to be really good, and it's very, it's a different view on Sor Juana's life. Her former cloister that she lived in is now a center for higher education.
Really?
I think under her name, and her image adorns Mexican currency, specifically the 1,000 peso coin and the 200 peso bill.
That's fucking awesome.
So during this is called Historical Memories. During the renovations to the cloister that she lived in the 1970s, bones were found that were believed to possibly be those of Sor Juana. At the same time, a medallion similar to the one depicted in the portraits of Sor Juana was found. The medallion was kept by Margarita López Portillo, the sister of the president of Mexico at the time. During the tercentennial of Sor Juana's death in 1995, a member of the Mexican Congress called Margarita to return the medallion, which she said she had taken for safekeeping.
Okay.
She did return it to Congress, and on November 14th, 1995, they held an event, and the description of the controversy was reported in the New York Times.
That's insane. So they think they found her bones
Yep.
in the walls of this convent. They found what was allegedly her medal, and the president's sister's like, I'll just hang on to this.
Whether or not the medallion is Sor Juana's, the incident sparked discussion about Sor Juana and abuse of official power in Mexico.
I mean,
she had a magnificent statue of her raised, and that's one of the reasons she's called the Phoenix of Mexico, is because she just keeps coming back. Like,
yeah.
They tried to shut her down by the guy publishing her works without her knowledge, and she's like, fine, you want to badmouth me, I'll badmouth you back, and here's more.
You want some of this? You want some of this? Bring it, bitch.
So yeah, they call her the Phoenix of Mexico.
That's awesome.
Her name is also inscribed in a gold wall of honor at the Mexican Congress building.
Aw. I think I found the first half of our episode title.
The Phoenix of Mexico.
Motherfuckers. No, I'm not going to add that part. Maybe.
MFers.
The Phoenix of Mexico, MFers. Herstory heroes.
That is Sor Juana.
That is so cool. I'm so glad you did that story, because I thought about doing it, and it wasn't what I was looking for that week.
No, I get it.
But I'm so happy I got to learn more about that.
Well, I'm glad to be of service.
That's awesome. And you know what blows my mind is, like, any person who's an intellectual like that and is just, like, so intelligent and learning for the sake of knowledge and better understanding, I think they should just get access to every library they want, every research
just do
material.
Whatever you want.
Let them do their thing, because they can probably guide that shit better than anyone could tell them to.
Right.
And so the fact that anyone was bringing her down for whatever reason, I'm like, you screwed us. You screwed us as humanity. She probably would have found the cure for cancer, and we would all be just
let her be
living fun and fancy free, but you fucked us.
Right. It would be interesting that, some of these scholars, men and women, that have been, persecuted over the years for one thing or another, like, what if we just let them do their thing? Like, I bet shit would be so different.
Guys, I have this.
We probably would already have artificial intelligence, and we wouldn't have to work, and we could just be lazy, and it would be awesome.
I have this incredible proposal. What if we let the smartest people in the world, who aren't assholes, just do their thing?
Right.
Where would we be? But he's Jewish. I don't give a shit. Cancer doesn't care.
Right. As long as he's not like a racist asshole It's fine.
I was going to say eugenics is completely removed from this scenario. Like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about that shit. That should go without saying, but anyway. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Cheers to Sor Juana. Clink. I think that's the second religious figure we've covered. Kelly's chugging her drink. Give her a second.
Yeah, because the only other one I can think of is the person that was a nun just to break out her lesbian lover and then burned the convent.
Well, Hildegard of Bingen.
No, I'm
The
saying
saint. Oh, yeah.
the person I'm thinking outside of those two was
Yep.
was a nun for like a week
I
and
don't
then
think-
burned the convent.
I don't think we'll count the convent burning fake nun.
Oh, I love that. She was amazing.
See, here's the thing. That was an incredible story. I don't think she counts as a
No,
religious
I don't think so.
figure. Oh my god. Okay. So today I am covering Annie Kopchovsky, aka Annie Londonderry, aka the Bike Babe, aka the Spokeswoman. Jazz hands. Normally for my women, I can't think of cool nicknames. This chick had like 80
I know.
fucking names.
There was the one that I had like the sexer of the stars or whatever her nickname was, and I'm like,
Oh,
awesome.
what was it like? Because it was.
yeah, see, I can't think of it either. It's my wine-addled brain.
Oh my god, yeah, she was the writer who
No,
had
the
the,
one I
greatest
covered.
women of the 20th century.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. The greatest star fucker ever.
That's right. I didn't use that for the
I
episode
know.
title though, because I was like, that might be a little much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm covering Annie Kopchovsky. Annie, like most unassuming heroines, came from humble beginnings. She was born in Latvia in 1870, the third of 5 children. That's a whole hand 5. High five. Goddamn. In 1875, when she was 5 years old, she immigrated to the United States with her family. Immigrants, they get the job done. Alexander Hamilton. I can't let it go.
We both didn't just break out and dance. Not at all.
No, and it wasn't the saddest white girl dancing you've ever seen.
Because we're sitting down and, a bottle in.
Yes. They settled in a tenement in Boston, and in case you didn't know, tenements were small, dirty, crowded, and generally terrible places to live.
Yeah, sometimes they shove like multiple families into one unit. And
Oh, yeah.
It was bad.
Imagine the worst studio apartment you've ever had, and imagine
Like
sharing
12
it
people.
with 12 other families, and none of you speak the same language.
Yeah.
Have fun. I would love, there's a tenement museum in New York, and I
that'd
would
be fun.
love to go
It can
see
be on
it.
our tour.
It'll be on our feminist tour. Whoop whoop.
Woo, woo. We should do that like next summer. We should just like take a week off and be like, this is where we're going.
You're hearing it for the first time. Kelley and Emily's feminist tour next summer. One of the many things we talk about doing that we're never gonna fucking do. We should though.
I'm going to. I'll do it without you, damn it.
Okay, I think we should do. Okay, so there's a Herstory tour in DC. What is it called? We follow them on Instagram.
Which
A
one?
tour of her own.
Oh, I'm like, which one?
Okay, so there's a tour in DC called A Tour of Her Own, and it's basically a women's history tour, and it's a play off of A Room of Her Own, which I fucking love because that's such a good piece. And I would love to take that with you, and I've been wanting to go to DC.
There we go.
I would love to go with you, and we can
There we
just
go.
like take selfies in front of everything.
Yeah. And
We'll
then
carry our wine glasses. There's water. It's okay. We're not getting drunk in public. We're being classy.
Yeah, don't worry.
Ossifer, this is grape juice. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's my morning grape juice. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. It's my vegetables for the day. It's
I'm
fine.
pretty sure grapes are a fruit.
That's my vegetables. God damn it.
I think that officer would be like, no.
I am a paragraph and a half in, and this is already just
Emily may have
unsalvageable.
reached two sheets now.
Oh my god.
All
Okay.
right, continue.
So she's living in a tenement. It's in a place like this where Annie grew up with her 3 siblings.
I thought she had 4 siblings.
Well, they're not born yet.
I thought she was like the 5th child.
No, she's the 3rd of 5.
Oh, okay. I
Or
just
no,
heard
wait.
5.
Fuck. Did I fuck this up? Okay, she grew up there with her big ass family.
Yeah. In a tiny apartment. Got it.
In 1887, when Annie was 17, her father died, followed by her mother 2 months later because
Jesus.
tragedy has no sense of timing.
I mean, at least she was 17 at the time, but still, like, it's either her or her older siblings that now have to look after the younger ones.
I was going to say, I am 28 years old, and if one of my parents died...
Oh, God, my world would unravel.
I would just curl up in a ball and die. That's just be it. I'm done. So Annie's oldest sister was already off and married, so she and her 20-year-old brother Bennett were left to take care of their 2 younger siblings, Jacob, 10, and Rosa, 8. So yeah. She's suddenly a mom at 17. Co-parenting with her brother.
Who's not much older than her.
No. 20 years old. He's not even old enough to drink, let alone take care of kids.
Right.
Although maybe in the 1800s he was.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Continue.
The following year, Annie married peddler Simon Kopchovsky, and they lived in the same tenement she grew up in, along with Bennett and her 2 younger siblings. So there are...
So basically, the new guy just joined their tiny apartment.
Yeah,
Okay.
The husband moved in. So there's a fuck ton of people living in this crappy little tenement.
Really, it's the same number. Actually, it's still one less.
Until Annie and Simon had 3 children, Bertha, Libby, and Simon Jr. Gross detail, Annie's brother, Bennett, who remember was 20, ended up marrying her oldest daughter, Bertha, and they had 2 kids. I'm sure it wasn't like when she was 2, so he was old, but like he is 20 at a minimum.
Yeah, there's at least a 20-year age gap.
When this girl is born. What is this? And it has nothing to do with the rest of the story, but I read that and I'm like, stop. Please. Just stop.
That's super weird.
It's gross.
Well, it's not, I guess I don't find it like that gross. I guess it is gross. It's like marrying your cousin. Yeah, essentially it's marrying your cousin because it's marrying your uncle.
It's marrying your niece.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like the whole position of authority thing. Like, and it's like, okay, you lived with her. Did you like groom her to marry her the entire time she was growing up?
You changed her fucking nappies. Like,
okay,
I know you're
gross.
trying to make this okay because it's the 1800s,
no,
but it's gross.
I just didn't like fully think it through. It is gross.
Yeah, the more you think about it, the worse it gets.
I feel like I need another bottle of wine.
Yes, we'll get there. It's okay. Okay, so that's a detail that's completely irrelevant to the rest of the story, but
she just wanted to gross us all
super
out.
Gross. Yeah.
Thanks.
Annie made a living selling advertising space for Boston newspapers while her husband studied the Torah and peddled his wares because they're both Jewish.
So what are his wares?
I don't know. I don't care. This isn't about him. Simon, honey, you're not important here. We're not talking about you. I don't know what they were, so you can just use your imagination. I put that in my notes. He peddled marital aids from a cart that he had outside business buildings.
Sounds appropriate.
People would just stop by on their lunch break to pick up dildos.
I'm sure women back then needed them.
Hysteria. It's a real problem.
Right? That's why they were invented.
Yep.
All right, continue.
The only good thing to come out of hysteria. Vibrators. Now, during this time, bicycling was all the rage. It wasn't just a hipster thing. Humanity had advanced beyond the insane penny farthing and was embracing the more traditional style.
Penny farthing?
Do you know those bicycles with the giant front wheel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what they're called?
And the tiny back wheel. Those
I'm
are
sure
penny
somewhere
farthings.
in my brain I knew that, but you said it and I was like, what?
I was going to say, everyone knows what a penny farthing is. They just don't know
the name of it.
That's
okay.
the name.
So they're going to regular bicycles.
AKA death cycles. Because how do you get off of that thing without breaking your neck?
Oh, okay, yeah. A penny farthing, it's a death cycle. I thought you were saying like modern bicycles. I was like, what?
So they had advanced from the penny farthing to the more traditional style that we know today. Bicycles offered simple, independent transportation to women in particular because, they're tied to their husbands. They also helped pave the way for less restrictive clothing for women and even, le gasp, pants. I love that you knew. Fucking yes.
Pants permits.
They did still have to have pants permits, though. You don't need a license to ride that bike, but you need a license to wear pants while riding that bike.
See, here's my question. Was it like, you can wear pants as long as you're on a bike, and then you must get off the bike whenever you get to your destination, you must change.
They had like little women's changing stations outside of every
Everywhere.
store so they could change into their appropriate skirts.
Yeah.
We're making this up.
Yeah.
But you know it's not probably that far off.
You know someone did it somewhere.
Naturally, this made bikes very controversial when women were riding them, at least. One writer for the Sunday Herald in 1891 wrote, quote, "I think the most vicious thing I ever saw in all my life is a woman on a bicycle, and Washington is full of them." I'm sorry.
Vicious.
Is this a time before murder and rape was invented?
Right? Like, I'm like, why would a woman on a bike look vicious? I mean, like, maybe if you're like, man, you look good and that kind of vicious, like, but
I
like,
love that. I'm going to describe beautiful women that way. Instead of honey, you're fierce. Honey, you're vicious. You're fucking vicious, and I love it.
Started here.
Whining about herstory. Making women's herstory. Trendsetters for the ages.
Hashtag.
Vicious. But seriously, like, this is the most disgusting thing he's ever seen.
Yeah, like, that's terrible.
And I'm not done with a quote.
Oh, Jesus.
He continues to say, "I had thought that cigarette smoking was the worst thing a woman could do, but I have changed my mind. Because women riding bikes is more sinister than inhaling cancer."
Yeah, it is.
Dudes, get your priorities straight, please. Come on.
I know. That's
God.
terrible. He probably was under, the cigarette company's thumb.
Oh, no, he was just pushing cigarettes.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's like, don't let women ride bikes. Make them smoke more.
hashtag Marlboro. No.
No.
Don't sponsor us, please, no.
We don't want it.
So it was shit like this and more that made the bet between two Boston men so crazy. In 1894, the two men bet $20,000 that no woman could travel around the world on a bicycle in 15 months. Or maybe the bet was made up by Annie. No one fucking knows. It wasn't uncommon for people to fake wages to get money for doing stunts. So there is this bet of $20,000 that a woman cannot bike around the world in 15 months. The legend is that two rich Bostonians who have never been named or identified made the bet. It's been theorized that maybe Annie made it up because she's like a self-promoter. I think it was probably, and I'll get into this, Colonel Alan Pope who made the bikes that Annie ended up riding. So we're going to get into that.
I can guess how this story ends and what Annie does.
Well, I will tell the whole story. You will know everything I know. So Annie's own great-grandnephew, who wrote a book documenting her journey, flat out said that the bet was made up to sensationalize her trip. It's possible that Colonel Albert Pope, the owner of the manufacturing company that produced Columbia bicycles, set the whole thing up to promote his bikes. So that's the kind of bike she rode on her trip. Either way, if Annie was successful, she would win $10,000, which is almost $300,000 in today's money. Excuse me while I fan myself and imagine all of the cool things I would buy with that money.
That would just go toward my...
Our DC trip.
Yeah. Student loans, pay off my house, and then...
medical bills.
Go somewhere.
All the things millennials dream of doing with their money.
Right.
So no one knows why Annie was chosen. Actually, the fact that she was a Jewish woman in a time where anti-Semitism ran rampant makes it even crazier that she was chosen.
They just assumed she would die on the way.
Also, did I mention she had never ridden a bike until a few days before her journey?
Nice.
So literally, the worst person in the world to pick for this for both like political and practical reasons was chosen to ride around the world in 15 months. But Annie was chosen by the grace of God. Whatever the reason, on June 25th, which is one of my best friend's birthdays, and the day I was researching this, so
Wow.
I genuinely think God wanted me to do this story. In 1894, the married mother of 3 set out on her journey from Boston amidst a crowd of 500 onlookers. Clad in a dress, she rode a 42-pound ladies' Columbia bicycle that had a placard attached advertising Londonderry Lithia spring water, for which she was paid $100. And as part of this ad deal, Annie also agreed to go by Annie Londonderry. This also concealed her identity as a Jew because anti-Semitism sucks. So,
Yeah.
it was what it was. In September, Annie arrived in Chicago. So she left in June, and it took her until September to get to Chicago. And she covered about 985 miles. During her journey, she lost over 20 pounds. Understandably, Annie almost called it quits on the whole thing. This may have been partly due to the fact that she was riding a bike that weighed almost 50 goddamn pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can pick up my bike with one hand.
Yeah.
I can't pick up 50 pounds with one hand. I will die. That's how I'm going to
two,
go.
But like having to deal with that every day would suck.
Yeah. I mean, that thing doesn't move. And I think I mentioned this later in my notes. She starts out on this journey penniless. And she like promotes herself to raise capital to like stay in like biker lodges and stuff like that. So she traded in that behemoth of a bike for a men's bike that weighed half as much. Yes, the men's bikes only weighed about 20-something pounds. Because where do women have to go in such a hurry?
That's funny. Was it still a Columbia?
I don't know. The bike was sponsored by a local company called Sterling Cycle Works and had no brakes.
What?
Yay!
I think I'd keep the 50-pound bike.
Here's the thing. I rode a bike. The bike I still own, and the brakes are terrible.
My brakes squeak.
And I was going down this hill, and there was a sharp right-hand turn. And so I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to make the turn going as fast as I am because the brakes on that sharp of an incline are useless. And there was kind of a field in front of me. So I was like, I'll just turn around in the field. Well, I failed to notice the ditch. And my
Before
front,
the field?
Yeah, so my front wheel went in. I was launched off of my bike, got a black eye because I landed on my left eye and my left shoulder. And I actually had to get physical therapy because I landed on my shoulder so hard I couldn't like lift it up. I couldn't lift up my arm. Yeah. So that's what happens when you have a bike with no brakes.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And she's making it around the whole goddamn world.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
So along with switching her bike, she also switched to wearing bloomers and later a men's riding suit because this isn't a Double Mint commercial. Like, we need pants to ride bikes, okay? Yeah. Thank you. Knowing that she wouldn't make it to San Francisco before winter and the inevitable Midwestern snowfall, thanks, Minnesota, Annie left Chicago and began riding back east to New York. She only had 11 months left to complete her journey. So she's made it halfway across the country and she has to double the fuck back.
Why?
Well, because she wouldn't have made it.
So go like the opposite way around the world, basically?
Well, because she's in Chicago. It's September. Winter is coming.
I know.
So she has to go back because there's no way she's going to make it to the West Coast in time.
She go backwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When she arrived in New York in November, she hopped on a ship that took her to France. As soon as she landed on France's north coast, Annie faced her next obstacle. Bureaucracy.
That's what I was wondering.
Customs confiscated her bike and money while the French newspapers wrote about how ugly she was.
Wow.
So classy, France. Your language is impossible and you're salty. Come on. After everything was finally sorted out, she set out from Paris to Marseille. I actually looked up how to say that, so I'm good. Take that, French.
Well, it's really interesting because Marseille and Versailles are spelled super similarly, but they're pronounced different.
Goddamn French! Annie paid her way riding through France by selling advertisement space on her bike and clothing. She would also give lectures about her trip, embellishing the story with tales of near-death experiences and accidents. Though she played up the drama of her travels, she did encounter hardships. She suffered an injury to her foot, which required her to prop up her injured foot onto the handlebars as she rode. which like made me think a little bit of Virginia Hall when she's like riding on the handlebars, except she's like pedaling with one leg and has the other one propped up. Now, Annie was a savvy traveler. The bet didn't specify how many miles she had to bike. She just had to get around the world. So she hopped a ship from France to East Asia. Remember, it's about working smarter, not harder. She did stop in Egypt, Sri Lanka, and Singapore before riding through China. So she would like stop at different countries along the way, do a day trip, hop back on the ship, and go to the next country.
Yeah.
Because
that's smart. That's super smart.
It is! By March, she was in Japan. She took a ship from Japan to San Francisco on March 23rd. Annie then spent the next 6 months biking across the United States, witnessing the majesty of the Southwest, the grand Great Plains, and the bean fields of the Midwest.
Bean fields?
Yeah.
Now it's corn.
Bean and corn.
Well, I guess depending on what part of the Midwest you're in.
That
would have been a great time to be in the Midwest. Cause
yeah.
that would have been like spring, summer here.
Yeah. I mean, not in Minnesota, but I think she just dodged that whole area in general because she's smart.
Lower Midwest.
Yes. At one point, she was almost killed by a runaway horse and wagon.
Wow.
And broke her wrist when she crashed into a bunch of pigs. Hello, Midwest. That's like the most Midwestern way to get hurt. The only way it could have been more Midwest if she had crashed into a cow. Fuck. Well, fucking A, love it. So while traveling across America, Annie would engage in local bike races and prove to be an accomplished cyclist despite having never ridden until shortly before she had started on her journey. But at this
when
point,
you're doing that every day,
she knows what the fuck she's doing now.
Does she still not have brakes?
I don't think she does.
I don't know. Maybe she picked up a new bike in France.
That's how she was able to do it so fast. She didn't have the option to stop. Finally, on September 12th, 1895, Annie arrived in Chicago, completing her journey in just under 15 months. So because she had already made it to Chicago and doubled back, Chicago was the ending point. She collected her $10,000 prize and went back to Boston. Annie later wrote of her exploits in the New York World, and the headline read, "The most extraordinary journey ever undertaken by a woman."
I was going to say there was a by a woman, wasn't there?
Like, here's the thing. The fact that she's a woman doing this is incredible and great and blah, blah, blah. Why do you got to qualify it, though?
Right.
Come on, New York World. Get your shit together.
Had men done it by then? Probably not.
I think it might have by a dude because she was the first woman and it never said the first person. So, okay. Maybe I'm being too harsh on the New York World. Kelly's giving me the skeptical look. Like, maybe I should be harsher?
No. I'm just saying maybe I'm going to Google this.
So, what did Annie do on her journey? It's difficult to say. As I mentioned during lectures, she would exaggerate her exploits or flat out make shit up. She claimed to be a medical student, the niece of a U.S. senator, and an orphan on different occasions.
He did it on a penny farthing.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's actually really fucking bad. Who was it?
His name was Thomas Stevens.
So Thomas Stevens was the first person to ride a bike around the world, and he did it on a penny farthing?
Yeah, it took him 2 years and 8 months. 2 years and 8 months.
So she did it in 15 months.
He was on a fucking penny farthing.
No. I'm not discrediting how difficult it was. But I'm like, those are
he did it in
comparable.
like 30 months. It took him twice the amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he actually biked the entire thing.
Half that time was him trying to get on and off that ridiculous goddamn bike. Who came up with that design?
So yeah, that was 1884 to 1886.
Okay.
When he did it. Sorry. Side note. Moving on. I had to know, like, my skepticism was, do we know for sure that she wasn't the first person? So, no, she wasn't.
This is the quality information we tried to provide to you on Whining About Herstory. No one can say we don't try. Anyone can say we don't do this well, but no one can say we don't try. She also claimed that she hunted tigers, met with royalty, and wound up in jail. So she's saying that she's all these insane
and still made it around the world in 15 months.
Yeah. She could have done it in like 2 weeks had she like just kept biking the whole time.
Ooh, that ship, man. Ships are slow.
Right? What we do know is that she did in fact ride her bike around the world and that she was the first woman to do so. So regardless of all the extra exploits, this was an incredible feat.
Well, and I mean, some people would argue she didn't actually ride her bike around the world because she took a ship part of the way. She would just get on and off of it.
Yeah, but
it's still, I mean, it's still incredible.
I was going to say, it's not like she like biked from Boston to a suburb outside of Boston and then sailed around the world and was like,
exactly.
I'm back.
She definitely biked at least across the entire U.S. and China and France. And then sporadically in other countries.
I was going to say, just biking from Boston to Chicago, I'm like, okay, you're a badass. I'm done.
What, 90
Almost
miles?
1,000 miles.
Wine makes me sleepy, apparently.
I'm getting exhausted just thinking about it.
Seriously, though.
After her historic bike trip, Annie leveraged her celebrity by selling photos, autographs, and other souvenirs. She continued to write of her adventures and moved with her family to New York City.
She's like,
remember,
fuck this tenement.
Shout out to Simon. I don't know what kind of husband he was, but he did stay home and take care of their 3 children while she's doing this shit.
I mean, if you're expecting your wife to come home with $10,000.
You fucking better step up, sir. In one article, Annie described herself as the new woman. This was a feminist idea that arose in the late 19th century, describing a woman seeking radical change and who pushed the envelope of what it meant to be a woman in a male-dominated society. So just being like a badass lady. Annie wrote, quote, I am a journalist and a new woman. If that term means that I believe I can do anything that any man can do. Legacy.
I like that, yeah.
Yep. So legacy. Unfortunately, Annie would never know the same level of fame that her historic bike ride brought her. She died in relative obscurity in 1947.
It kind of happens. It's like her 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just die
her
off.
15 months of fame. However, the world has not forgotten her. In 2007, her great-nephew, Peter, who I mentioned before, published a book called Around the World on Two Wheels, Annie Londonderry's Extraordinary Ride. A bicycle-themed performance called Spin featured a song called The Ballad of Annie Londonderry, was written about her. There was also a documentary called The New Woman, Annie Londonderry Kopchovsky, which premiered in February of 2013 and won the award for Best Documentary at the DC Independent Film Festival. Annie truly embodied the spirit of the new woman. She was a bike-riding, pants-wearing, independent, self-sufficient badass. So remember, everyone, be a rebel, ride a bike.
Fuck yeah.
Because, like, let's remember, like, riding a bike doesn't seem like a big deal to us today, but at the time, bike riding was,
I need
like,
to get a new bike and actually go bike riding.
We should go. I have bike paths all by my house, and we need to go on a bike ride.
I do have a car that can fit my bike now.
We should do this.
We should.
Okay.
Moving on.
We will tell you later this summer about how Kelley and I went on a bike ride in town.
Died.
No, God.
I haven't biked in so long. It's been like years.
Okay, so when Jared's mom got married, they're really into like physical fitness and going on excursions and stuff. So we went to a town about 45 miles or 45 minutes out from where we live. And one of the things that they had planned the day before the wedding was a bike trip. So we rode on the bike trails, we rented bikes and did the whole thing. And that was the first time I'd ridden a bike since college. And I was terrified. But it was so much fun.
Like, I know how to ride a bike still.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know where my stamina is.
Right. Actually, so we've been getting a ton of rain in Minnesota, and the bike paths by my house,
Yeah,
like,
they're all flooded.
They're flooded because they go along the river, and there's actually a bridge that goes over the river, and the water is almost touching the underside of the bridge.
We have a road bridge that crosses the river at some point too, and my husband usually walks under that bridge to go to work. He couldn't have done that today. That bridge is underwater.
He had to swim.
Or, he just doesn't go to work on Saturdays.
I'm sorry, I can't make it into work. The path
He would have just had to cross, the street like a normal person.
Nope, too much.
I can't do it. I'm afraid of roads. I can't do it.
Okay. So, Kelley's favorite time of the episode. Don't give me that fucking
I wasn't
look.
trying to. I was trying to think of something.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, because I have to sneeze.
So I'm really excited. I'm really thankful. So last weekend, me and my friend Caleb, who co-hosts Shit Showtime, the movie podcast I have, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of doing the podcast, and a local theater was showing Jurassic Park, so he dressed up as John Hammond, and I dressed up.
Forgot to remind me so I could go with them.
I completely spaced it because it turned into kind of a Shit Showtime thing. Weren't you busy on Saturday? Last Saturday?
I don't remember.
Probably.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, so he dressed up as John Hammond and I dressed up as Sam Neill, and we walked into the theater and people literally applauded, and it was like...
I mean, he did a really good John Hammond. I'm not that you were a bad Sam Neill, but he did a really good John Hammond.
His John Hammond cosplay, like, we were watching the movie and I was like, I'm watching Caleb on the screen, like, this dude looks exactly like fucking John Hammond. And I couldn't find my khaki shorts, so I had to wear jeans instead of khakis. Otherwise, my costume was pretty on point.
Should've just gone to Goodwill.
Right. Well, it was the day of, and I was like, I've got the shorts. I don't need to make sure I have the shorts. Oh God, I don't have the shorts. But it was a ton of fun. You know, Caleb and I, we've been friends for over a decade, and watching movies has been a big part of that friendship. So for us to be able to celebrate our friendship in this podcast we're doing together was really great. And I can't wait to celebrate our 1 year, which I mean is a ways off, but it was fun. I loved it. So yeah.
I haven't thought of anything yet. I'm thankful to be working from home. There you go.
That's right. You started working from home now.
Technically I started a week ago Thursday, but then I had Friday off, and then, life. But yeah, so this week was my first full week working from home, except obviously, for us here in the US, most of us had Thursday off. So
4th of July.
Full week. But it's been good. I think the dogs really like it, and especially with Atari getting older, I'm glad to be able to be home, spend time with them.
That's right. Kelly is the biggest video game nerd, and I love her. So her dogs are named Atari, Commodore, and Navi.
Yep.
They're so cute. Little nerdy Grumble.
Yeah, I love my Grumble.
You might hear them sometimes in the background of our episodes barking, fucking patriarchy!
Yep. They're all women. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
They're empowered women, empowering women.
And Jurassic Park is full of empowered women because all the dinosaurs are ladies. High five. All right.
I think that's it for this episode.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. We're so happy you're here. Please check us out on Facebook at Whining About Herstory and Instagram, WAH Pod. We post tons of cool stuff. Like us, follow us. We love you.
We're also on Twitter now at WHA_pod.
WAH.
Whatever. WAH_pod. Our website is whiningaboutherstory.com, and our email is whiningaboutherstory@gmail.com.
If you have some people you want us to feature in our Say Their Name segment, email them to us. If you want to tell us about the empowered women in your life, email us.
If you want to talk about yourself, email us.
If you want to tell me how you started a stamp collection of strong women, dude, fucking email us yesterday. Get on that.
Honestly, if you just are bored and want to talk to someone, email us. We're probably also bored.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Either way, we would love to hear from you. In any form, whether it's Facebook, email, Twitter, Instagram.
And then rate and review us 5 stars wherever you listen. It really helps us out.
5 stars.
So this has been Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelly.
And have an empowered day. Bye.